I kind of look at the choices that an entrepreneur has to make, and I segment them into what I call low variance problems and high variance problems. And one of the mistakes that I think entrepreneurs do, and certainly that I do as well, is that you don't really know. Actually, in a larger company, the easiest thing to invest in is the low variance problems. Low variance problems are the ones which has little upside in being the best in the world at them, but there's tremendous amount of downside if you don't do them well enough. So the perfect example I have is paying salaries. So obviously, you know, if you're the best in the world at paying salaries, the marginal, you know, good of being the best versus being okay is not that high for most people. They just expect to get paid at a certain date. But if you miss that date, then you're screwed. Like, it's really, really bad, and you have severe morale issues, etc. So that's the low variance, whereas high variance is where you have both ups and downs. So I find most startup entrepreneurs are pretty good in the high variance bucket, but it's the low variance part that we just underinvest in. So as an example, in our case, you know, we up until pretty recently, I didn't really pay attention much to this. We were running on an ERP system that was stopped being supported by Microsoft in like 2001. And we were still running that thing, even to this day. And so like, and we're probably 10 times bigger than anyone that's ever used that thing before. So the cost now for us to try to switch that out while having all these processes built up, that's part of that. It means that there's like 200 people that are only working on that for a very, very long time. So what was a pretty trivial decision back then now turns into this like multi-year thing where we have to migrate everyone over to this new system and keep the two systems in parallel, etc. And I find, like, as you scale your company, the biggest thing is to figure out when you should actually sort of, when is good enough? When is the sort of low variance bar threshold met? Another one for us has been like HR. Like, for a long time, I was like the only HR person, and I didn't really see the value with it, despite having, you know, hundreds of employees. And so you underinvest in a lot of that stuff that was severely hurting us. So you can see that on Glassdoor, for instance, that our ratings as a company was just pretty terrible until we started investing in HR and just get better in formalizing some of those processes, get better at how we set salaries so that we're actually fair and just to people, not sort of like, hey, we think this is kind of where it ought to be. And that's when the scores then started increasing too. But that could be really expensive if you miss your window.